I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire.
That was Viola Fletcher, the oldest known living survivor of the Tulsa race massacre, testifying before a House subcommittee and calling for justice and reparations for survivors and their descendants. 100 years ago this Monday, the Tulsa, Oklahoma neighborhood of Greenwood went from a flourishing business district known as Black Wall Street to ruins in a matter of days, with the loss of hundreds of innocent lives. I sat down with some of those descendants to recall the past and shine a light on a path forward.
Hark the sounds of roaring battle as they charge without relent, shooting women, men, and children, plying torches as they went.
This first-hand account of the Tulsa massacre,
black men like the ancient Trojans fought and died to save a cause,
was written by Tulsa's star editor-in-chief, A.J. Smitherman, the great-grandfather of Seth Bryant.
With banners flying high, yet the thing of more importance is the way they fought and why.
It's still very emotional for you.
Yeah.
I mean, is this what we call generational trauma?
I've always been scared of lynchings. I've always been scared of, like, mobs, but he wasn't scared of lynchings and mobs. He ran 2 lynchings,
including the one threatening his hometown. Smitherman was one of the many founding fathers of Greenwood, a community in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so rich in economic power, it came to be known as Black Wall Street.
Their clientele was black, white, Native American.
Mary Elliott's great-great-uncle, T.J. Elliott, owned a hotel, theater, bank, and a chain of department stores.
My uncle was on the executive committee of the National Negro Business League, worked very closely with Emmett Scott and Booker T. Washington. And they used their economic power to empower other African Americans.
JB was able to hand down a positive legacy.
Nate Calloway is the great-great-grandson of hotelier J.B. Stratford.
He had already started several businesses, put himself through college, put himself through law school. But his crowning achievement was his hotel, which was the largest black-owned hotel in America.
All 3 are a striking representation of Greenwood during that time.
Greenwood was a place where people could come with their vision of a better world.
Something anthropologist Marlon Hall is passionate about preserving.
If you were here, you would see the hustle and the bustle of a metropolis. You would see this ecologically friendly community that had every kind of store you imagined. The folkloric motto of this community was, if we didn't have it, you don't need it.
Black families flocked to the Oklahoma Territory fleeing a post-Civil War South.
These black people went into a space that they thought they could actually fulfill their dreams of what it means to be free, manifest their freedom. And they did.
But amidst all that success, there were growing tensions.
Resentment by the white community, scapegoating, blaming the black community, Greenwood, for the vice in the community.
By 1907, Oklahoma became a state, quickly enacting segregation and voter suppression laws like others in the South. That helped give rise to even more division.
It was a powder keg looking for a match, so to speak.
On May 31st, 1921, an elevator ride in a downtown office building lit that keg.
A young man named Dick Rowland was accused of trying to rape a young white woman named Sarah Page.
Someone heard a scream, and the assumption was that he was the attacker.
My great-grandfather was very attuned to what was happening. He made the call to the local black men that we have to go down to the courthouse and stop this mob.
So as the mob grew, tensions grew, things got out of hand, a shot was fired.
By dawn, several violent clashes had broken out, the most destructive by air.
They brought airplanes and they bombed Greenwood. There was no help for the blacks. There was nothing to stop that mob.
J.B. Stratford tried to save his hotel.
The National Guard came and told him that he needed to leave. They promised him that his hotel would not be destroyed. Of course, as soon as they pulled him out of the hotel, a mob stormed the hotel, ransacked it, looted it, and set it on fire.
As many as 300 people were killed, and the entire Greenwood business district was leveled.
The family's home was burned down with my great-grandmother and the children in the basement. They were able to get out, but they had to flee.
By defending themselves and escaping the mayhem, many became fugitives from justice, accused of inciting those riots. Stratford fled to Kansas and then Chicago, where he practiced law.
He lived out his life in relative comfort. He was never able to rebuild what he had built in Tulsa.
T.J. Elliott's Tulsa store was destroyed, but his Muskogee location remained in the family until the 1970s. Smitherman landed in Buffalo, where he started another newspaper, the Empire Star. So this is the first time you've seen these newspapers?
This is the first time that I've actually touched paper copies of the Empire Star.
Newsprint.
Newsprint. Frankly, we didn't know that any of these copies existed.
When you look at the Mary Elliott's, and the Seth Bryants, and the Nate Callaways, how are they a part of that diaspora, that dream realized?
They are the sacred echoes of a statement first made in Tulsa about what happens when you give black folk a chance. They represent this continuum of something that was certified in Tulsa.
Mary Elliott is a curator at the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. Seth Bryant leads one of the largest black law firms in New York City. And Nate Callaway produces film and television in Los Angeles.
What is the lesson of Greenwood?
It was a community of what's possible if people are allowed to achieve their goals, allowed to pursue their passions and live their dreams.
All have reclaimed their legacy.
We're made up of lawyers, doctors, financiers, filmmakers, artists, judges.
The biggest thing I could tell you about surviving a thing like Tulsa is the word community. Kinship transcends blood relationship.
We can have that again. It's hard to see because it's not physically in Tulsa, but it's happening. And I just think that we just have to keep on that path and never give up the hope.
And the hope is in the descendants, their children's children who've carried on and been extremely successful. You saw 3 there. I mean, the historian known to black folk, John Hope Franklin, was a descendant. So is the major investor, John Rogers of Ariel Capital, and even our own Danya Bacchus here at CBS News, correspondent.
Great piece, Michelle.
Yeah, really great.